Welcome everyone to the why and how of Energy Leadership Workshops. I'm your host, Vic Ballara, Certified Master Coach, and of course, an ELI Master Practitioner. I've been coaching using the IPEC model for 5.5 years now, and I'm very excited to be able to share this webinar with you and all of my IPEC coaching colleagues. So let's get started. So today's agenda, we're going to of course talk about why do workshops. We're going to get into pricing and selling techniques, how to sell value. I'll also share the workshop agendas that I've developed. So a half-day workshop and a full-day workshop with exercises and slide-by-slide timing. And of course, that irresistible special bonus offer at the end for all of those who are sticking with the program. And we should get to that point in under 20 minutes. So let's get started. Why do workshops? Of course, we're motivated by money, but for me, it's a matter of reaching leaders in all organizations, and we do that one by one. But the best way to reach even more is helping you reach other leaders, but also teaching you how to do workshops to get 20 or 30 individuals in a room to get with energy leadership and to start practicing it. So this is something I learned from Michael Port, and he's the guru who wrote the book, Book Yourself Solid, and his comment was always have something to offer. So you can sell value of coaching one-on-one, and this is based on about $250 an hour, including 2 debriefs on the front end and the back end for 6 months. Typical cost about $3,500. So no matter how well you sell value, that may not fit the client's situation, so you can offer group coaching. And you'll notice that the revenue went up to you, and more importantly, your hourly rate went up. Now, that may or may not fit their timing and budget either, so that's where workshops come in. And here's a simple workshop, 12 individuals. I recommend no more than 20 in a room, and when I've done 40, I've brought in another IPEC instructor to help facilitate the discussions. So at about $1,000 each, $12,000 in revenue. So we've now reduced by 2/3 the investment per person that the company is having to fork out, and your hourly rate has now gone up even higher, almost 3 times as much as one-on-one coaching. And then, of course, you want to always have information products, which are kind of like a cash machine, an ATM, but we're not going to get into that today. So another answer to why do workshops? Well, 52% of corporations utilize outside trainers for their programs, and 80% of the total dollars spent last year go to companies with annual revenue less than $5 million. So it doesn't have to be a major corporation. Small companies, 5 million, probably 50 employees, could be a great 12-person workshop and good revenue for you. So one of the reasons what we do is so important, and I'm sure you're familiar with the concept of employee engagement. Almost every client that I've ever spoken to, prospects and clients, understand engagement is a big issue, and companies spend billions of dollars every year trying to change employee engagement. Well, according to Gallup, if you look at this trend line, it's flat. And so you might say, well, why is that? Well, you know, we as IPEC coaches know that it's the leader. The leaders aren't engaged, especially when you see ARLs in the 3 to 3.2 range. But you know what's funny is late last year, Gallup actually admitted that based upon their research, that managers account for 70% of the variance in engagement. So they're really the issue here, and that also explains why engagement has been flat. Now here's another research study, and I used all of this in my selling presentation to sell energy leadership, whether it's coaching or workshops or both. And you'll see the top bar. This was a survey done by Development Dimensions International. Last year they concluded when of 14,000 participants, the executives and leaders in their study rated the quality of the leadership, their leadership, which I would think includes them, is low. And what's even more mind-boggling is HR, who typically owns leadership development, even gave a less than failing mark to the quality of their leadership. So this is why it's important to do what we do. If you need more data to support this, here's a study by Deloitte that said organizations are particularly weak at coaching and developing people, particularly the organizations that are the low performers. Need more? Well, here's the study that of CEOs who admitted that human capital issues are the most significant area that they're less than well prepared to address. Need more? I hate to overdo, but I want to convince you to be able to convince your prospects why this is important. So you'll see right here that when looking at importance versus readiness, leadership was tied for the most important, but was the least effective in terms of their ability to deliver, their readiness. The gap was 36 points. So here's another Deloitte study that says leadership is falling behind. Now, we all know this. I thought I'd just throw this in, why this is so challenging. And most people go through life, as you know, as unconscious and incompetent. And that's why energy leadership is so important to help bring about behavioral change. Now, you can do this. Here's an example of a free workshop that you can do to generate leads. And this just happens to be a local one offered through the Small Business Administration, the Service Corps of Retired Executives. And I have found this as a great way to serve your community while providing value and generating leads. Another way to generate leads is to look to a joint venture partnership with an organization who's in front of your ideal clients, but not necessarily offering what you offer. And here's an example where I delivered a workshop on energy leadership, and we had a standing room only crowd. They actually paid $65 to hear about energy leadership, and I also had a couple of client speakers talk about their experiences with it. And this generated over $400,000 in proposals. So here's a quick look at the agendas. This is a half-day agenda. So you'll notice that I try to not talk more than 10 or 12 minutes without exercises. And then, of course, you've got to have breaks. I include a variety of videos that can add value to the content, but also increase your credibility. So I've got videos from Daniel Goleman. I've got videos that are about mindfulness, if that seems to play in well to what you want to do and what your clients expect. And then there is an option if clients wish to have a full day or 2 half days that I extend the workshop agenda and we get into a strategic initiative exercise where I present the group's E-Factor score and we strategize around how are we going to address this particular initiative relative to our perhaps high catabolic energy. So some things to think about. You can actually take your handout or create a handout and charge for it. I would recommend you do this. You don't give them every slide. You create a fill in the blanks note-taking piece, and I like to spiral bound them, and it could cost $2 to $4, sometimes $5, depending on the number of pages. But it's a great leave behind. Oops. So that's the handouts. And then to make it interactive, you can call on individuals to read their answers to what they filled in for the blanks that you've set up. Now, how do you explain catabolic and anabolic energy? I've worked very hard to develop slides that accurately portray, in layman's terms, what's holding individuals back. And I like to use the analogy here. So either I talk about the individual who wears the bomb disposal unit garb, so it protects him, but it makes him, and it's usually a him, work so much harder in order to accomplish the same results. That's like walking around with a lot of catabolic energy holding you back. The other image is the guy pulling the rock behind him. So the Energy Leadership Index assessment will indicate how large those rocks are and where they're coming from, and then the coaching program or the workshop are all about techniques for chipping away at those rocks. So, of course, we talk about gales, gremlins, judgment, ego, stress, and all the things that hold leaders back. I like to present the profile. In fact, I started presenting the levels this way before IPEC did, and they got rid of eventually the calling the levels what they did in the training and just calling it level 1, level 2. But I'd like to particularly point out that this is a very typical profile, and we have a way of measuring how impactful energy is on individuals, and in this case, 56% of their energy is working against them. Now, one of the things when selling to an organization, I might ask them, so what would the benefits of 25% greater productivity be? And we flip chart that. You know, it might make our stock more valuable. It would mean higher profits. It might mean we could hire more people. We could train and develop more people. So I want to leave them with that number in mind. And I want to then utilize the research from IPEC. This is a couple years old now, but it's still quite relevant, where we can see after 6 months of coaching a 100% increase in this example in productivity. And from a leadership standpoint, 200% increased in leadership ability. So this is the WIFM. So how do we sell value? Well, there is a process. So when you're working with a prospect, there's the introductory phase. It's all about building relationships, identifying what are the key trends and business challenges, what's keeping them up at night, and then exploring the relevance of the solutions that you have as a result of your case studies and testimonials. And then the bottom line is getting them to think about what the future would be like in their organization if they experienced 25% greater productivity. So the way we do that is we get them focused on the return on investment. So if I were to tell a company who had 80 leaders that they wanted to have coached and developed, that this would cost them just shy of $400,000, well, you know, they would show me the door and say, thank you very much. So you want to avoid talking about price, and price is never what you want to talk about. Price is what they pay, value is what they receive, and the investment is how they get there. So you focus on value. And the value here, here's one example, is to understand what the cost currently they're facing, whether it's turnover, low morale, high stress, or lack of engagement. And with this within this client in particular, I was able to document about $637,000 per week was being lost as a result of all of the inefficiencies that we just talked about. And if we were to look at just a 20% gain in productivity, we're looking at over $2 million on the plus side. So that's the benefit. The ROI in this case is 9.7 to to 1. Sometimes, and particularly if the CFO is in the room, I might ask them, so what would you think a good return on investment might be? And you'll hear 10%, 15%, maybe 25%, not 900%. And so I'll even tell them, so if I haven't really isolated the effects of the workshop and coaching, let's just cut that by 3. And your return on investment is 3 to 1. Would that be a good thing? Well, of course they would. So it's all about value. And we're talking about creating, capturing, and delivering value. We're not talking about cost here. So here's just one case study where I was able to show that productivity increased, in this case, not 20%, but 25%, and communication skills increased 67%. And you can see that every one of the factors that the ELI measures increased except for work-life balance, intimate relationships, and family relationships. That's how you sell value. So, okay, they said, yes, perfect, Vic. I want you to deliver a workshop, and I want it in a week or 10 days or 2 weeks. And this happened to me, and I thought, oh, man, now what do? I don't have any materials. Well, I guess I could go out and buy some materials. And here's a company that has 65 coaching slides that are pretty generic, and it's $400. Well, you know, that's not going to work for me. Well, wait, IPEC has a slide deck and a script, and it's like 6 years old. In fact, they're presenting data that's 6 years old. They're not even talking about the data on the last study 2 years ago. And in fact, this is pretty bad presentation. The new research, again, I'm grateful for IPEC. I love the training I got and the research they do, but quite honestly, they just don't know how to present it. You know, would you prefer this slide or this slide? I sort of feel like the optometrist. Number 1 or number 2? Well, you know, it's presenting the same information, but it doesn't really make the same impact. So I had to start creating all of these slides myself. And it took me 3 weeks and about 45 hours of time, plus about $300 to acquire the license to all of the graphics that you've seen. So here's the irresistible offer. If you want to deliver workshops tomorrow, you could also take 40, 50, 60 hours of your time to design a workshop yourself. But why would you want to do that? You know, it might cost you about $9,000 in effort, time, and cost. So I put together a program for my IPEC coaching colleagues. I have about 24 clients that I now work with individually. They get 3 30-minute coaching calls. They get 205 slides in 3 different decks with detailed speaker notes, graphics, and very persuasive exercises, 2 case studies that you can make your own, a white paper documenting the ROI, which you can also brand as your own, 150 minutes of recorded webinars plus 12 high-impact videos, and what I'm really excited about, if that isn't enough, is an interactive pricing and planning and ROI calculating Excel spreadsheet, plus standard agreements, proposals, and coaching templates. But wait, what is the ROI, you might ask? Well, it's about 10 to 1, and your payback is probably within a month, but I would say within 6 months. All you have to do is sell 1 workshop, and you've more than covered your investment by just 1 participant. So I was offering this program 50% off, but I decided that because there is a great deal of interest in doing workshops, that we should come up with something that's better than that. And so I have on my SkyDrive that I would give you access to over 2 gigabytes of information, everything you've ever wanted to know about how to deliver workshops and how to increase your hourly rate 200 to 300%. And like I say, but wait, there's more. If you go to workshops123.com, you will find a very special offer. And let me just take you to it. Sorry about that. Got my GoToWebinar page up. So here is everything that you can ask for in terms of adding to your program. So I've added an extra recorded webinar, The Business of Coaching, which will help you understand how to create a compelling ROI and how to calculate it. Everything that I talked about, the coaching calls, the marketing materials, the case studies, and a free upgrade to that master class on the business of coaching, a live recording and a live attendance, I should say, plus the recording. And of course, unlimited email support to me. So for a very limited time only, it's under $1,000. And what makes this even a better deal is PayPal has a deal where you can buy now, get instant access to the materials, and not have to pay anything for 6 months. So what that means is you go out, you market, you sell your first workshop, and you pay this off as a result of revenue. So it's really no money out of your pocket. And this deal is so exciting, it's 75% off. So with that, I want to respect your time. I said 20 minutes. I'm at 21 and a half minutes. So let me just say thank you, and go to workshops123.com and you'll get to the special offer. And I look forward to working with you to provide powerful and impactful coaching programs and energy leadership workshops.